We're live.
Aloha, snack bar, everyone. Good mythical morning. It's the one and only the Mystic Monkey on another edition of Mornings with C with V and CJ, the man who is the master of the flux capacitor, the denizen of the airways, the producer extraordinaire, the uncanny one, the plucky one who is making sure that this broadcast comes out smoothly. And we are joined, I guess, because now there's news and information out that I just found out this morning that the Northeast is about to get walloped by a massive blizzard, thus causing the Russian analyst to come forth and join us today. CJ, what's up, man, before you get into James? CJ's on mute. CJ's on mute again.
Am I muted?
No, you're
V,
unmuted.
I'm still trying to get awake. This whole hour,
I'm not
spring,
used to it.
this whole spring forward is like put me back like 1 hour in my sleep. I lost an hour of sleep. I'm upset.
Oh, it's the worst, man. It's the worst.
But the good look on the bright side, you're only 7 hours difference from Moscow time now in New York.
Yeah, that's it.
No, I'm doing great. I'm doing great, bro. But good luck with that blizzard that's heading your way.
Oh man, I don't know what to do now. I have to go get the milk and bread. Why is it that everybody has to go get milk and bread? What is it about milk and bread that as soon as a snowstorm comes, I gotta go to the store, I gotta get milk and bread? Why?
It beats beer and Cheetos.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. So anyway, it's a Monday and we're here, and the analyst, the man, the Russian analyst is here. James, what's going on, buddy?
Well, thanks for having me on the program this morning, gentlemen. Just wanted to kind of plug a couple articles I put up this early AM on the vampiric schedule, which is slowly going to get better, I hear, in the next few weeks. But in any
Awesome.
case, this spring forward thing did me no favors. But I was planning, to go to sleep earlier. But since I'm up anyway, I thought, okay, I better pop in on the show and plug a couple of new articles that are going up. One is just kind of a review of the past week with my own kind of take on the Vault 7 dump by the WikiLeaks, with an emphasis on how the Russians are evaluating it, and not just what you see on RT, but in terms of the countermeasures that they're working on to develop their own systems, the acceleration of domestic Russian-produced apps, and even their own versions of devices. That they don't really make droids or iPhones in Russia, but they're working on kind of trying to create some of their own more secure devices. I'll have more information on that. I'm doing more research on that subject and what some of the countermeasures are, but also in terms of something that came to my attention was the fact that a very prominent Moscow clinic in the city, in the capital, has banned Gmail. And this is not just, of course, confined to one clinic. This is happening all over the Russian government, or any Russian government funded entities. So it's expanded far beyond just the Ministry of Defense and the Foreign Ministry, where they were trying to get rid of all these easily backdoored apps and email and other programs since the Snowden revelations.
Yeah.
But now they're trying to expand it down to a level that of just civil service people and ministries beyond the ones you'd immediately think of as targets for CIA hacking or surveillance. And something else that's been brought to my attention by Scott, who tweets at Scott's Humor, SCOTTSHUMOR. He is the editor of The Saker, my friend Andrei Rievsky, the white Russian in Florida, whose blog is very well known among Russia watchers and people just interested in the country in general. He published an interesting story, a translation of Russian story, where they talked about how it appears that Dmitry Medvedev's iPhone was hacked during this whole. A lot of people don't remember this, but this may be an important part of the backstory to whether or not some Russian hacking actually did happen. And I think the Clintons were definitely targeted. Okay, Now, whether the DNC itself was hacked by state-sponsored Russian hackers is a separate question. But I have no doubt that Bill and Hillary's emails, the Podesta emails, and of course the infamous bathroom server were in fact hacked by the Russian security services. And as I wrote, I think Putin would ask the GRU and the FSB or whether or not they were doing their jobs if they hadn't gotten into that server, since everybody else seemed to have gotten into it. It was a hacker Halloween party, if you will, according to Guccifer, the original Guccifer, not the Guccifer 2.0 that the media was going after Roger Stone for exchanging some Twitter direct messages with, which somehow, again, we're supposed to be part of a secret FBI investigation, but leaked out. So anyway, and Stone, of course, has denied that he did anything improper. He just had an exchange of pleasantries, and furthermore, his exchange with Guccifer 2.0, the other hacker who's been accused of being a front for the Russian government, but is in fact probably, in my estimation, a Moldovan hacker who thinks he's a Romanian or has a Romanian passport,
right?
But whose native tongue is Russian, not Romanian. Is that Stone tweeted out that on his own feed, Roger J. Stone Jr., that he only had communications with Guccifer 2.0 after the dump already took place. So there was no element of premeditation or involvement by his part in whatever Guccifer 2.0 claims to have released. But be that as it may, the point is that according to the story posted by Scott's Humor at the Sacred blog this week, and forgive me, I don't have the exact title here in front of me because I'm in a different room where my computer shut down. But Scott basically reported that from Russian sources that it's come out that Medvedev's iPhone was probably hacked. And it looks like it was done by this same CIA group that WikiLeaks Vault 7 dump has exposed.
Wow.
It wasn't done by NSA. You'd think it's done by NSA TAO, the hackers that were based in the NSA facility in San Antonio. Some of them were in Fort Meade. Some of them are in Bluffdale, Utah. But in fact, it looks like when it comes to some of the personal targeting of Russian leadership, that was being done by CIA rather than NSA, who normally has the responsibility for these types of operations. In fact, that was one of the theories that when Snowden's revelations came out, was that Snowden was some kind of CIA plant infiltrated into NSA to cut them down to size because the NSA was getting too big for their britches. Well, now maybe another theory you could have about this WikiLeaks Vault 7 dump is that somebody at NSA is returning the favor and deciding they didn't like the fact that the CIA after 9/11 set up their own NSA that was competing with, in some cases, perhaps even contradicting or messing up NSA operations.
Wow. Unreal.
So the point I'm getting at is Medvedev's iPhone was hacked. And how do we know that? Well, we know that because there were these revelations in Russia several weeks ago. A group of FSB employees who worked in the IT field were arrested. Several of them were arrested and charged with treason, with working for the CIA. And this is one of them has already confessed to working with this so-called hacker group called Shaltai Baltai. Now, Shaltai Baltai is the Russian fairy tale version of Humpty Dumpty. And Humpty Dumpty, of course, fell off the wall and shattered in a bunch of pieces and couldn't be put back together again. The basic fairy tale is the same in Russia as what your audience knows. Shaltai Baltai, here's where it gets interesting. They not only published a lot of correspondence sent to Medvedev, to the Russian prime minister, but they also published correspondence emails sent to a Russian billionaire named Konstantin Malofeev. Now, Malofeev is the funder of Tsargrad TV, Tsargrad being the Russian word for Constantinople, an Orthodox Christian news network whose most prominent host is Alexander Dugin. And it turns out that Malofeev received an email from an American citizen living in Moscow named Charles Bausman, who happens to be an acquaintance of mine, the guy who runs Russia Insider, asking him for money. Now, Charles never really authenticated that email personally to me, but he never denied its existence either.
Yeah.
That Bausman, in the early stages, before he got his crowdfunding set up, and believe me, the guy, I've had conversations with him on the phone. He's really operating on a shoestring there. In fact, they're not really based in Moscow, though they say they're based in Moscow. Their guy, I think David, lives with his Russian wife and mother-in-law in
New Jersey.
No, not New Jersey, but they live in a suburb. Which is outside the city. So it's
okay.
like
So
a commuter
Coney
train
Island.
ride it's about an hour. I don't want to say the exact town they live in, but
That's fine. Let's just say it's Coney Island, Brooklyn, in the Russian community over there.
Yeah, it's I think Bausman told me he's raised a figure in the not very high 5 figures in the total amount of crowdfunding he's done for the past
Awesome
2 years. So, and he's got 2.
Good God! For this is for Russia Insider?
Yeah, he's got 2 full-time employees too. One of them, I think, recently left and joined the Duran. Vlad Rodzenko. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Anyway, with the Duran is Peter Lavelle's operation, which is a separate thing. But the point is that, and they don't get along with Russian Insider. They have some weird rivalry thing. And that's a complicated story. It's a side issue. But the point is that Shaltai Baltai hacked emails that were sent to an American citizen. Now, that an American citizen is sending to a Russian citizen. Now, you guys know the NSA, and they came out with these claims after, Snowden's revelations, that they have what's called incidental collection, where if you pick up an American citizen's communications with a person who is a legitimate foreign intelligence target, and, Molofiev is, he doesn't have Fourth Amendment rights, you have to do what's called, you have to separate and keep the communications to that American citizen private, or you have to limit their distribution, because if you continue to spy on that American citizen, even if the initial collection was incidental, you're supposed to go to a FISA court and get a warrant to spy on that American citizen, even if he's not in the United States, right? Even if that citizen or U.S. person, meaning a green card holder, a permanent resident, is abroad. Well, here's where I think that's the evidence that the CIA was the one who was acting as basically the puppeteer for Shaltai Baltai, because if the NSA had TAO had been hacking Molofiev's emails, then they would have, at some point, somebody in the NSA would have had to go to a FISA court and get a warrant for the emails that Bausman was sending to Molofiev's assistant. They would have said, okay, we've got this American citizen and he's communicating with Molofiev because he's trying to raise money for his site. So we need to, if we're going to continue monitoring emails between Bausman and Molofiev, we have to get a warrant, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't get I don't think anybody got a warrant, which is why I think it was CIA. And I think it's the exact same team, that the evidence is pretty strong. And I think that's where the next WikiLeaks dump will start to point. This is speculative on my part, but you heard it here first on the show. I like to break things that you won't hear anything else.
Right.
That, this is the same crew. This is all the same people. And they use Shaltai Baltai, they're just running them as sock puppets, basically. They use these Russians. They use this FSB guy who was corrupt, who got paid off.
Yeah.
And they were running this whole operation to dump emails of the Russian elites. And now, why does this matter? Well, it matters because this was going on after Crimea, but before all the Russians hacking the election allegations started. So if you want to say who started this hacking war, it seems to me that it was started by the CIA. If you want to say that there was an element of Russian revenge or tit for tat in terms of dumping Hillary and the DNC, Hillary's emails and Podesta's emails, then, it looks to me like somebody in Russia decided to fight back after CIA hacked into all these emails after the Crimea thing and the war in Donbass started. So some pretty important context in terms of this overall cyber picture. Now, I don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, and I don't think anybody does, but it's just another part of the overall story, and I think it is relevant background. because of course at the time people were like, oh, Shaltai Baltai, look at these hacktivists, these wonderful hacktivists. When you say, they're probably NSA or CIA, people are like, oh, whatever, conspiracy theorists. But now, it starts to come out that the conspiracy theorists were right. And there'll be more stuff like this.
I don't know.
And of course, it doesn't help that, on Friday, I didn't even have time to write about this. The Russian ambassador's death was, the records of what caused the death and the autopsy were sealed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's, you want to talk about feeding conspiracy theories that he was poisoned. That's, and I'm not saying he was, but it certainly doesn't, it doesn't produce a less cloudy picture. It's not casting more light on what happened if he did have a heart attack of natural causes.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Questions, CJ?
Well, there's a lot of discussion in regards to Hillary's server. It was set up so poorly, James, in terms of the firewalls, the protocols that it was used. Is that
and it was set up with a domain that script kiddie hackers, let alone professionals, could have found. It was like Clinton Mail something.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Something you'd guess.
Hillary and Clinton Mail. The password is password.
Yeah.
The password is pedophile.
Password is pedophile.
Password is pedodesta.
Pedodesta.
Well, what I'm getting at is when you look at the history of the Clintons, right? You think of the uranium that the Clinton Foundation sold to Russia. You think of the military secrets that Bill gave to the Chinese. There's a theory out there that the server was utilized more of a Dropbox because they knew that it was exposed. They knew that it was going to be infiltrated, and in fact, they felt more secure placing intelligence there in that server as a Dropbox for foreign agencies to go in and retrieve that information.
And let's also not forget, speaking of nukes, that some of Hillary's, I think it was aides in the State Department, were emailing nuclear-related secret classified stuff through Gmail. So just as Gmail, the Russians don't trust Gmail. I don't know why, they would imagine that it would be beyond the capabilities of the Russian or Chinese intelligence services to get into Gmail servers in Mountain View. I mean, all you need is one person, right? One inside person there.
Right.
Probably Chinese rather than Russian.
But I doubt that.
I doubt that. California.
James, I doubt that happened though, because I'm sure Hillary used a really advanced, security questions, like really very hard to guess security questions.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to give you guys kind of some pretty exclusive rundown there, based on and again, I didn't want to get into confidences with people, discussions I've had, but I also just kind of wanted to, I could not fail to mention Bausman by name because he is the American whose emails were mentioned in the Shaltai Baltai dumps. So it wasn't like I could just say, oh, it was just some random American guy, but I can't say his name because, anybody who would dig into it enough would figure out who it was pretty fast. That it was the Russian insider founder.
Got it. Interesting. All great intel, James, man. Thank you so much. Anything else on your radar, James?
Yeah, just, briefly wanted to talk about the, I know that CJ had mentioned this in one of the emails pre-show that, we have this build up towards the assault on Raqqa. The race to the Euphrates is finally on, and the Syrian Arab army got there last week. You had Russian advisors going up to Manbij, this Kurdish town controlled by the SDF, the Syrian Defense Forces backed by the U.S. military, the Pentagon. Basically, you had an example of U.S.-Russia direct cooperation on the ground, and very likely Russian and American officers meeting each other physically in person in northern Syria to prevent the Turkish army from advancing any further. And I don't want to get into the whole Dutch-Turkey thing because that's like a whole nother separate issue, but it does amaze me that the turd in the hummus bowl, as you call him, is managing to piss off just about everyone.
He wants an absolute ban on all kebabs in the Netherlands, my friend. I mean, can you believe this?
Yeah, and of course the timing, right before the Dutch elections coming up on, I think it's Wednesday already.
Yeah.
with the Dutch
Right.
establishment desperately trying to look tough against the Muslim Turks, although they don't want to say it like that, before the Dutch people would go and elect somebody like Geert Wilders, who's very anti-EU. That they really don't want that to happen. So the timing of it all is very curious to me. But back to this northern Syria situation, you had Russia and the U.S. directly cooperating to, not just indirectly like in the past, where the Pentagon would provide certain targeting coordinates to the Turks and they would pass those on to the Russians and the Russians would bomb something, or vice versa. What you had was American and Russian officers directly interacting to block the Turkish army from advancing any further south to the southeast. So whether that, of course, bluff holds, I don't know. But it's interesting that for all the obsession with linking, quote unquote, Trump to the Russians, the media, the legacy media, has not really wanted to talk about that too much, and that surprises me. But I suppose it shouldn't, because the whole point, of course, their whole narrative all along has been, oh, the Russians aren't fighting ISIS. Of course, they just took back Palmyra, 2 weeks ago, and slaughtered hundreds of ISIS fighters. So it's interesting how they try to downplay it, and how they're going to advance this narrative of, well, we want to take Raqqa and we want to defeat ISIS, but we don't want to do it too fast. Remember what I said on this show several weeks ago, and I'll wrap up with this thought. Remember what I said on the show several weeks ago when I came on about the concern that if the U.S. troops, if the Rangers, the Army Rangers, the 82nd Airborne Marines, whoever it is that's going to get in Iraq first, it'll probably be the JSOC guys, the Rangers, when they find crates and crates of anti-tank missiles, of rocket-propelled grenades, of mortars, and it's all shipped from NATO countries to Saudi Arabia and Qatar, and not shipped years ago, but within the last 6 months, when they get to Raqqa and they find all this evidence incriminating Riyadh and Doha and U.S. allies in supporting ISIS, that's going to be a crap storm. I mean, it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to keep a lid on that and keep all of these guys from talking. It's going to come out in the military, and the feud between the CIA or the Al-Qaeda, the John Brennan wing of the CIA, and the stay behinds he's left in Langley since he quit or was forced to leave, and the Pentagon is going to ramp up, because you still have some of these Al-Qaeda affiliated Syria groups firing TOW missiles. Now, I mean, they don't fire it nearly as many since November 8th. The number of TOWs shipped to them has clearly dropped or has stopped, but they still have a bunch of these U.S.-made weapons still lying around. And if Al-Qaeda uses them against American troops, in solidarity with ISIS or whatever, that's also going to be a scandal, a big deal. What happens? What are they're going to say at CIA? What's John Brennan going to say, when the first Americans get killed by a TOW missile that was supposed to be used against the Assad's army?
The Russians did it.
Probably that's what they'll say. They'll say, it was an Iranian knockoff of the TOW. Yeah, that's
what it is.
It was Hezbollah.
CJ, don't you got some intel on what's going on with the battle of what is it? You get some good intel on the whole Syria thing.
Yeah, well, basically, James just broke it down perfectly for us to make sure that everyone understood, and it's important our listeners understand that, because there's just so much disinformation right now, not only in the mainstream media, but also in some of the other new media that are so quickly to state, taking everything at face value, stating that, oh, look, Trump is continuing the illegal wars, continuing this. He's cleaning up. He's cleaning up a mess that was created by the deep state and the CIA and Barack Obama. So, yeah, they are definitely working with Russia in terms of coordinating military efforts there in northern Syria. It's by design these things are happening, and it's important for our listeners to understand that. So when you see the amount of the narrative that they're trying to create, stating that Trump is continuing the illegal wars, continuing these things, he's just cleaning up a mess, and it's something that needs to be done to push Al-Qaeda/ISIS out of Syria. And that when that's going to happen, that's going to create a vacuum into potentially Iraq, and that's why we're mounting some forces there in Kuwait in preparation that when they do flee from Syria, that there's going to be some forces there that they will meet.
Yep.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Now, gentlemen, I got to roll, but appreciate you letting me join the program and covering this such a broad waterfront, and especially the Shaltai-Baltai CIA connection.
Absolutely. But did you hear about the latest scandal? I mean, W's got pictures of this to prove it. This whole Russia connection with Trump. I don't think Trump's going to be able to escape out of this one, man. Did you see the latest photos?
Russian dressing.
Yes, he was caught with a bottle.
He might have even ordered Terramilk pancakes.
He might have
from Brighton Beach to Trump Tower delivered.
Exactly.
With
Dude,
sour cream.
Yes, I don't think he's
and caviar.
Yes, from the Black Sea. I don't think he can get out of this one, bro. The whole Russian dressing thing. The picture of him holding a bottle of Wishbone, Russian dressing. I think it's a done deal, bro. I think they got him.
Louise Mensch is celebrating on her way to the mental health facility.
On the way to the psych ward for another round of lithium.
And John Schindler on his way to rehab.
Yeah.
His drinking habit. Okay.
Yeah.
I got to go.
All right, buddy.
Take care, James. Thanks for joining us.
All right, CJ, man, let's run down the last few minutes we got. Let's talk about what's this article? Bust a piece of hoe that Bankers put out.
She posted that, and I sent her a Twitter message. I sent her a tweet saying, "Hey, you cannot tease us like that. A piece of hoe." She's like, "Well, if Bix can do clickbait words, we can do clickbait words too."
That's right. Good for you, Bankster. Deb is absolutely right.
It's very interesting timing, everything, V, in regards to Vault 7, and then in regards to some of the very new technology that IBM, had just recently announced in terms of data storage.
Sure.
So check out this article by Bankster Slayer. It goes through the new technology that's found with a very rare mineral, but that basically this mineral, in terms of how they're going to be able to use it, that basically you can store terabytes of information in the smallest capacity. So our technology is getting ready to take a whole leap forward. There's also been some revelations in regards to 4D technology utilizing crystals that's going to be coming out. So just some amazing things that are happening here fairly quickly, V.
Dude, that's amazing. And the thing with holmium, okay, is that it comes out of monzonite, mining, which is going to be incredible. This is good stuff. Someone wants to take that and run with it. There you go. There's a piece of tech, and there's a little piece of information. Russians met with Hillary.
Yeah, so all this talk and this fake narrative that they keep pushing, and finally Vladimir Putin's press secretary finally just came out and said, "You know what? In regards to the conversations, we met with Hillary's campaign as well to discuss things prior to the election, prior to any votes taking place." So Dmitry Peskov has came out and just adamantly stated that that Russia didn't hack the election. However, in terms of conversations and things that did take place, we did meet with campaigns. We did meet with Hillary's officials, and all these fake narratives they keep trying. And so hopefully, V, that it's going to be coming out pretty soon, that they're going to be able to squash this and put an end to this, crazy agenda that the left keeps trying to paint with Donald Trump, stating that he's a Russian spy, and the Russians have infiltrated, our Constitution and infiltrated our elections. Just complete chaos there.
Absolutely. And what's this thing with the Ross Ulbricht, man? The guy with the Silk Road?
Well, one thing, V, that just, I kept thinking back in terms of Vault 7 and what this has shown us is that, time after time, there's been the U.S. Justice Department has went after individuals, and the whole Silk Road thing with Ross Ulbricht and what they prosecuted him for. To this date, V, they have not openly stated how they were able to locate that server, how they were able to infiltrate that server. And James, said it perfectly when he stated basically our amendment's right, the Fourth or Fifth Amendment that states specifically that they can only use specific rights and not invade privacy. And so I think that we may see a whole backlash that once that's admitted that this has taken place, that our government was doing this, you may see a whole slew of court cases that come forth and say, look, the government used illegal surveillance methods to obtain this information, and what the whole Silk Road was about, and unfortunately it was used for a lot of illegal drugs and so forth.
Right, which was basically it was a platform that was a rival to what the cocaine import agency was running. You know,
Yes.
and it was disruptive in so many different ways. That's why they had to take the guy out, and they trumped up charges against him. It was all fake. It was a total miscarriage of justice with the trial. The entire, I mean, think about his sentencing: life without parole for what?
And apparently, V, when you look at that case, you also take a look at the criminal elements that those that infiltrated the Silk Road actually stole money, stole Bitcoin from it. So when I look at this and I watch, there's a great movie, documentary that they made from this. I think it's called Deep State, and I watched it this weekend. And basically, you know, not only in terms of the illegal drug trade, but I specifically look at this as far as the blueprint, this foundation that was being created among trading and buying things outside of the government and utilizing Bitcoin to do this thing. It was basically creating a true, you know, free market, if you will, you know, completely outside of the U.S. jurisdiction that they did not like. So yeah, you're absolutely right that they were more going after this as far as we need to shut this down to protect, you know, the statist and protect our rules for everything that's that they did. So yeah, it's a good tie, and I hopefully, you know, Ross and his attorneys will take a look at this, because to this date, like I stated, the federal government has not come out and stated, you know, how they acquired and accessed his server, and more than likely it was done through unconstitutional means.
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, they're giving him like, oh, you attempted manslaughter charges for murder for hire allegations, which are never on the litany of things that they charged Ross with. Yeah, then they're like, oh, then you know, people died from using the drugs that was purchased from the Silk Road on the dark web. Okay, well, the pathology report says that there was really no conclusive evidence to show that. The judge, who is a corrupt piece of human filth named Catherine Forrest, dismissed it as saying, oh, it's irrelevant. We're going to foster our entire 40 years of the war on drugs with trillions of dollars spent, CJ, which has done nothing. This is why we need to legalize this, so this ridiculousness that we hold on to, this obsolete paradigm that we hold on to, where innocent lives are caught up. I mean, think about it. You got a drug problem. Is it a criminal problem or is it a medical problem? That is the question. It's ridiculous, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see what all comes about it. But the whole Vault 7 thing, and you know, really opened my eyes to was when, you know, Monica Perez came out on Friday and she was looking at it from a different perspective. I'm like, and then also we had Cliff, and Cliff, you know, gave us another perspective. So I was like, let's frame this up. Let's take a look at this from all angles and see what other implications that it does have. And I'm excited to see the next amount of data dumps and things are going to happen, V.
Yep, absolutely, man. This type of corruption needs to stop, and I think people need to go on to freeross.org, check out what the whole case is about, and this is why, you know, this is one of those rallying points that people need to rally around. Go ahead and check it out. With that being said, guys, we covered the whole litany of everything for today. We had the Russian join us. And CJ, give out your shout-outs, buddy.
Yeah, come back, check us out at 11 a.m. We have the one and only London Paul will be joining us. So we're excited. We're always excited for Mondays, V.
Always, man. It's time for another major intelligence dump by the man himself, London Paul. With that being said, guys, I am the Mystic Gorilla. He is the master of the flux capacitor, and we will be back here in about 2 hours with London Paul. Check us out on roguemoney.net. Follow us on Twitter at The Rogue Money and The Rogue Money Facebook page. And also check out our sponsors. If you're suffering from debt, you're running and hiding like a scared person, and you're quaking like a leaf because you owe Visa or MasterCard or American Express money, don't fret, don't panic. Check out my guys over at myfreedomnow.us, myfreedomnow.us, where these men can go ahead and kick the bankers in the nuts, as I always say. With that being said, CJ, we're over and out. Take it away, buddy.